We know the ancient world through its great civilizations: Egypt, Mesopotamia, Rome. But one of the largest civilizations in all of human history left behind cities we cannot explain, writing we cannot read, and a collapse historians simply can't account for. So how does a civilization this large almost disappear entirely from history? Hi guys, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Michael. I have a degree in ancient history, and on this channel, we explore the unexplainable mysteries of our past. Let's get into it. Around 2600 BC, the Indus Valley was home to one of the most sophisticated urban cultures on Earth. Cities laid out in precise grids, streets wide enough for carts, covered sewers running beneath entire neighborhoods. But the civilization that built all of this never made it into the stories we tell about the ancient world. And that gap, that near total absence, is the first mystery. But there are several more mysteries, and as we keep moving through this video, the more they compound. This video is sponsored by War Thunder. One of the strangest things about history is how quickly military technology can completely reshape civilizations. And honestly, that's part of why I genuinely enjoyed War Thunder. War Thunder is the most comprehensive vehicle combat game ever made, and is available now for free on PC, consoles, and mobile devices. The game features over 2,500 tanks, planes, helicopters, and ships from 10 major nations, ranging from the biplanes and armored cars of the 1920s all the way to modern fighter jets and battle tanks. The vehicles are recreated with incredible detail, while realistic graphics and authentic sound effects make battles feel surprisingly immersive. And because you're fighting real players using vehicles with very different strengths and weaknesses, you start to understand how technology changes the logic of warfare. War Thunder has a worldwide community of over 95 million players competing in epic PvP battles, making it a fantastic game for fans of military history. Right now, new players and returning players that haven't played in the last 6 months can claim a limited time bonus pack, including the Eagle of Valor vehicle, 100,000 silver lions, and 7 days of premium account. So if you'd like to try it yourself, use the links below to get your bonus and start playing today. This is the story of a civilization called Harappa, or the Indus Valley Civilization, or sometimes just the Indus. It had no single name that we know of, and that alone should tell you something. An entire civilization powerful enough to reshape a continent, yet we don't even know what it called itself. At its peak, the Indus civilization covered an area larger than ancient Egypt and Mesopotamia combined. The territory stretched from what is now northeast Afghanistan, down through Pakistan, and into northwest India, roughly 1.5 million square kilometers. Perhaps 5 million people lived within it. Some estimates reach 10 million. It was genuinely enormous. The two anchor cities, Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, each supported populations somewhere between 30,000 and 50,000 at their height. In 2500 BC, these were world-class numbers. But most people have heard of ancient Egypt. Most people have heard of Mesopotamia. Far fewer have heard of this. And the gap between what this civilization achieved and how little it appears in the public consciousness is something worth sitting with, because it's not explained by scale, it's not explained by complexity. In both of those categories, the Indus belongs at the same table. And the reason it's been overlooked, it turns out, is stranger than simple neglect. Mohenjo-Daro was excavated in the 1920s, but the archaeologists who first uncovered it were not prepared for what they found. The city was built on a grid, not approximately, precisely. Streets ran in cardinal directions, city blocks were standardized, buildings were constructed from kiln-fired bricks made to a consistent ratio, 1 to 2 to 4. That same ratio appears at Harappa, 600 kilometers away. It appears at Dholavira, on the run of Kutch, over 1,000 kilometers further south. Whoever built these cities was working from a shared standard across a territory the size of Western Europe. But stand in Mohenjo-Daro and look down. Beneath your feet, covered drainage channels ran the length of every street, households connected to them, waste was managed, directed, removed. Some of the sanitation infrastructure here was more sophisticated than anything in medieval Europe, and it was built 2,000 years before Rome even existed. There's also a large structure archaeologists call the Great Bath, carefully waterproofed, fed by a well, surrounded by smaller rooms that may have served as changing areas. Was it ritual? Civic? We don't know. We can't read what the people who built it left behind. But the architecture is only half the strangeness, because now just look at what's missing. Every major early civilization leaves the same fingerprints: a palace, a royal tomb, monuments carved with the image of a ruler, usually shown defeating enemies or receiving tribute from gods. Propaganda, essentially, the ancient world's way of announcing power lives here. Egypt has it, Mesopotamia has it, but the Indus Valley cities have virtually none of it. No palace has ever been identified at Mohenjo-Daro with any confidence. No royal burial site, no large-scale warrior iconography, no inscription recording a dynasty, a conquest, or a king's name. The visual grammar of power that appears in every other early civilization, the grammar historians use to understand how ancient societies organized themselves, is totally absent. And this creates a problem that goes beyond the absence of names, because how do you organize one of the largest civilizations on Earth? How do you standardize brick ratios across 1.5 million square kilometers, maintain trade networks spanning thousands of kilometers, and sustain cities of 50,000 people without leaving behind any evidence of the power structure that made it possible? Well, historians genuinely don't know. Some suggest a priestly class, some suggest a merchant oligarchy, some argue the uniformity itself is the clue, that this was a civilization held together by a shared culture and economic networks rather than centralized authority. Others think we simply haven't found the evidence of power yet. But here's what unsettles the most. The cities look strikingly equal. Housing varied in size, but not wildly. There's no neighborhood of palaces surrounded by slums, no monumental architecture demanding submission. Whatever this civilization was, it doesn't behave like the ones we know. But there's something stranger still, the writing that nobody can read. More than 4,000 inscribed objects have been recovered from the Indus sites. Seals mostly, small, square, carved from steatite. They show animals, a short-horned bull, a rhinoceros, a creature with a single curved horn that no one has confidently identified. And above the animals, strings of symbols, the Indus script, between 400 and 700 distinct signs. Most inscriptions are between 4 and 6 signs long. The longest known is around 26 signs. Yet no bilingual inscription has ever been found. No ancient text refers to this script in a language we can read. No Rosetta Stone exists. Scholars have been trying to decipher it for over a century, but they have all failed. And that word carries weight. Linear B, the Bronze Age script of Mycenaean Greece, was deciphered in 1952 by an architect working in his spare time. Mayan glyphs resisted interpretation for decades, then yielded rapidly once the phonetic principle was cracked. Ancient Egyptian fell to the Rosetta Stone. Writing systems that looked impenetrable turned out to have keys, but the Indus script has no key. So just think about what that means. We don't know the name of a single Indus ruler, not one. We don't know their mythology. We don't know what they called their cities, their rivers, their gods, if they had gods in any sense we'd recognize. 5 million people, perhaps more, across 1,000 years of continuous civilization, and we cannot hear a single word they said. Now imagine holding one of these seals. You can see the craftsmanship, the precision, the animal rendered in careful detail, the symbols above it placed with evident intention. Someone made this to communicate something specific. But whatever they were trying to say has been waiting in silence for 4,000 years, and we still can't answer. However, what happened next was both mysterious and devastating. By around 1900 BC, Mohenjo-Daro was declining. Not suddenly, not in a night when the city burned and everyone fled, no. Instead, the process was slower and stranger. Civic maintenance began to falter. Buildings that had been carefully maintained showed signs of improvised repair. Brick quality dropped. The drainage systems that had made the city extraordinary fell into disrepair. And by 1700 BC, the great cities were largely empty. But nobody really knows what caused this. Climate change is the leading hypothesis. Paleoclimatic data from lake sediments and cave formations across South Asia shows the monsoon began weakening significantly around 2200 BC. Less rainfall, drier conditions. The agricultural surplus that had fed the cities became harder to sustain. A river may also have moved. The Gugger Hakra, which once ran through the heart of Indus territory, appears to have dried substantially during this period, pulling settlement with it as it retreated. But neither explanation is clean. The monsoon weakening began before the urban collapse by several centuries. Some settlements continued to grow, while others were abandoned. The pattern is uneven in ways that don't map onto drought. And then there's the trade. Sumerian clay tablets record a trading partner they called Meilula. Merchants from Meilula appear in Mesopotamian records buying and selling in the ports of the Persian Gulf. Indus seals have been found in the ruins of Ur. Carnelian beads, manufactured to Harappan standards, have been recovered at sites across the ancient Near East. Etched stone weights matching the Indus measurement system turn up thousands of kilometers from where they were made. So this was not an isolated culture behind a mountain range. This was a civilization operating within a Bronze Age global economy, shipping goods across the Arabian Sea, maintaining commercial relationships with the largest cities in Mesopotamia, participating in a trading world that stretched from the Mediterranean to the subcontinent. But sometime around 1900 BC, the Meluhha trade stopped, abruptly enough that Mesopotamian records simply ceased to mention it. The ships stopped coming, the seals stopped appearing, the network that had connected the Indus to the wider ancient world went silent. Now, whether trade collapse caused the urban decline or whether the urban decline caused trade to collapse is still unresolved. But what is clear is this: one of the most connected civilizations of the Bronze Age, a civilization trading across open ocean, maintaining commercial ties with Sumer and Akkad, withdrew from history so completely that the world it had traded with eventually forgot it even existed. And then, so did everyone else. After the cities emptied, the Vedic civilization that emerged in northwest India left an extraordinary record. The Rig Veda, composed perhaps between 1500 and 1200 BC, describes a world of rivers and plains that overlaps geographically with the Indus heartland. It is one of the oldest religious texts still in active use anywhere on Earth, but it contains no memory of the cities, no ruins, no lost predecessors, no mythology of fallen greatness. The civilization that built Mohenjo-Daro had vanished so thoroughly that the people living in the same landscape, centuries later, left no record of it. For 3,500 years, the Indus civilization simply didn't exist in human memory. For millennia, people unknowingly walked above buried cities without realizing an entire civilization lay beneath their feet. And then it was found, not by archaeologists with careful plans and research funding, it was found because of a railway. In 1856, British engineers laying tracks across the Punjab needed material to ballast the railbed. Someone noticed the ground near Harappa was full of ancient fried bricks, extraordinarily well made, perfectly usable. Millions of them were pulled from the earth and fed into the foundations of the Lahore-Multan line before anyone thought to stop and ask where they were coming from. Floors, walls, drainage channels, seals perhaps, fired by Harappan craftsmen 4,000 years earlier, destroyed in weeks to keep Victorian trains on schedule. So one of humanity's greatest civilizations was rediscovered in the act of being demolished. Excavations finally began in 1921. What had been buried and what had been lost before the digging started began slowly to become clear. Now, here is something historians rarely emphasize. Most of the Indus civilization is still underground. Thousands of sites have been identified across the territory through satellite imagery, ground surveys, river mapping. Fewer than 100 have been meaningfully excavated. Mohenjo-Daro itself, one of the two anchor cities of the entire civilization, has had perhaps a third of its area uncovered. The rest lies beneath the water table, beneath soil too saturated to safely dig, beneath a modern village built on top of the ruins. Political instability across Pakistan and northwestern India has slowed fieldwork for decades. Many sites sit in regions where sustained archaeological excavation is simply not possible. Entire urban centers, the size of Harappa or larger, have been located but never opened. So imagine a city the size of ancient Rome, maps from satellite imagery, known to be down there and largely untouched. That's where we are. However, new technologies are beginning to change this. Ground-penetrating radar, LiDAR, remote sensing techniques that can sketch the outlines of buried streets without disturbing a gram of soil. And the picture being assembled is larger than anyone expected, which means the script, the architecture, the social structure, the collapse, all of it may look different once we can actually see it. We are not at the end of understanding this civilization. We may be closer to the beginning. And the question that creates is genuinely vertiginous. If we already know this much about something this forgotten, what does the rest of the ground contain? We tend to think of history as a record. Incomplete, yes. Difficult, yes. But ultimately recoverable. Apply enough scholarship, enough funding, enough time, and eventually the picture fills in. But the Indus civilization tests that assumption. Here is what we have. Extraordinary cities, a script we cannot read, no confirmed rulers, no mythology, no explanation foundation for collapse that fully accounts for the evidence. And here is what is gone: everything else. The literature, if there was any, the theology, the political structure, the names, the stories people told their children. But this was not a marginal culture. At its peak, it may have held a tenth of the world's entire population. It ran trade routes across open ocean to Mesopotamia, and it forgot itself so completely that the people who inherited its landscape didn't even know it had existed. Those Indus seals now sit in museum cases in Karachi, New Delhi, London, and Washington. Scholars have stared at them for a century. The symbols are clearly intentional, clearly systematic. Someone placed those signs above those animals with specific meaning in mind. So we have to look at them the way you'd look at a transmission from a frequency you've lost. Someone was speaking, we just cannot hear what they said. And if something this large could disappear this completely, from memory, from language, from the stories of the very people who walked above its buried streets, then the question worth sitting with is a quiet one. What else is already gone?
Before you go, a quick reminder that War Thunder is available for free on PC, Xbox, PlayStation, and mobile. Use my links in the pinned comment or description to sign up. New players and returning players who haven't played in at least 6 months can also claim a massive bonus pack on PC and consoles, including the exclusive Eagle of Valor Decorator, 100,000 Silver Lions, and 7 days of premium accounts. It's available for a limited time only, so don't miss it. Thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing to my channel down below. I'll see you next time.